This conference will
as
now be
well as
recorded.
Doris back there, and then we will have questions come in. If people at home want to ask a question, just indicate that in the chat area, and our monitor of the chat area will signal us, and we'll be happy to turn to you, and you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Would ask that everyone who has something to say will use a microphone so that everyone, most importantly, the people at home can hear what the questions are and the answers. So it makes sense. So with that, who'd like to start? Yes, Bob.
Gee, what's this? I'm Bob Dubinsky. I am more or less your tech director, tech person for the theaters, for in here and over at Freedom Hall. You put me on the committee. This all has to do with the theater upgrade, just as a preference to it. You put me on the committee, and I'm supposed to be a liaison to help you understand how we use the theater.
Right.
And I have not been able to do that because I have never been allowed to come in and talk to Kevin from Coherent Design and be able to sit down with them. This is all should have been done previous to all,
Right.
we actually letting out the contracts.
Right.
Never had a chance to do that. Only was allowed to go to 3 meetings. First one is just an introduction. The second, the second one was when we got the initial first set of plans and everything, when we were at like 1.7 million or something, which was way over budget.
Yeah, right.
And I try to help out. I try to bring one of our resident experts, Rich Myers, who owned a company that does sound for theaters and stadiums and everything.
Where are we going with this?
But I tried to have him come in and tell what's happening, but every time I turn around, Sandy gets in the way, and I don't know if she's a power thing or something, that I'm only a resident and I don't know what's going on.
Bob, I'd ask you not to make dispersions about staff. Let me say, I recall that you were certainly involved and talked with Kevin as we were writing the RFP and what we were going to be asking for. Now, really, talking with Kevin is not doing an RFP. We're not doing a new RFP. That's been we've signed a contract with who's providing all of the equipment and going to install it. Kevin will serve as project manager, but
I was told by Kevin when the last meeting that I had with him and Sean, make whatever changes that you think are necessary, that you would like, and send them to me. I did that.
Right.
Then all of a sudden I get another email telling me I'm not supposed to do that. You are not allowed, to ask for a meeting.
Because now's not the time to make changes.
But it is the time, because we still have time. I'm talking about changes as far as where the lights are placed in the theater. Some of the ones where they're placing them are not where we need them. I know from 10 years experience in this theater with the equipment that they're getting, and Kevin even said it's not a problem. Just tell me what you want and we'll make the changes. We're not purchasing anything new. We're just putting equipment in different spots. And be that as may, I know everything now is set in stone, but now you have a problem. You have the problem in that Max and I are no longer going to be doing shows for activities starting this next year. Okay, right. You have, unless you're hiring somebody in the next month or so, you have 2 shows in here. You have still one, that for Mist and Get Plus you have the Marco Tool Show, which I've already been contacted by activities wanting to know, how are we going to light this? You know, light this. He's looking for colors on the stage. How are we going to do this? And I'm going, why are you asking me? You know, only the fact that
Right.
I'm the
Okay.
go-to person.
Okay.
But I get no respect, in the words of Rodney Dangerfield.
Okay.
I mean, you know, I'm
I
just,
hear you, Bob.
I'm up to here.
No,
I mean,
okay.
it's like right now, Marco Tool Show is going on, and I just found out that their lighting person didn't show up or may not show up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, then you're going to allow people to operate the equipment that don't really know how. Not only that, Max and I, we tried to arrange through Danielle
Right.
how to train your staff.
Okay.
Because I'm the only one that knows enough to train your staff. Now with your new rules, I can train the club members because we're covered by insurance, because I can go in there for the clubs. I can't, if it has anything to do with an outside show or even with training your people, I can't do that anymore unless you pay me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm not covered.
Right.
And to be honest, I'm not working for 10, 15 hours, which temporarily you have me down at for, for
All
training.
right, Bob.
You know, I'm just so frustrated.
Okay, I hear that. And, all I can say is we'll see that we'll work with Sean and Sandy, Kevin, to ensure that lights get put in the right place. And I think,
Well,
we can
I've already talked
reasonably.
to Kevin, and that's all I have to do is tell him where I want him. So that's more or less a moot point on the.
Well,
on the
it's
whole thing.
not just for theater, Bob. It's a multi-purpose theater, not just for theatrical shows. It's also for, a variety of different uses. So it may be different than just set up for theatrical shows.
I have done over 250 shows in that theater in my 10 years here.
Right.
I have done everything from club events.
Okay.
So you can't tell me there's things in there that you're going to get that I haven't done, as a union stagehand, that it's, and even Kevin tells you,
Bob,
you don't know how lucky you
Bob,
are
I
to
think
have a
we need
black
to
shirt.
move. I think we need to move on.
Fine. That's
Bob,
good.
I'll work with you to try to get this information out, okay?
All right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please use the mic.
I just have kind of a follow-up question. Why aren't hearing devices available in the theater?
They're there, but it's part. They're there. We have 6 units, but they don't work anymore. They're 20 years old. In the
Okay.
upgrade, they have like 12 or 20 of them that will be available. Once we get the
Oh.
theater upgrade.
I see, because I know I've attended some of the shows with a neighbor who was hearing impaired. She wears hearing devices.
Right.
But she had to just get up and leave the show.
Yeah. That will be-
Steve, let me handle this one. first.
Understand anything.
All right. Yeah, the new system is both, we have devices,
Okay.
and in addition, the frequency that it runs on some number of hearing aids automatically will connect to it.
Oh, I
So
see.
you won't even
Okay.
need the devices.
Oh,
It's the state of
Okay.
the art in terms of this. It's the best thing we could find.
and when will?
Well,
this be
the theater
implemented?
upgrade, we hope, because again, we're under the same constraints that everybody else in the country is in terms of object delivery. Depends on what object it is. But we've had a warehouse that's being filled with stuff. We hope to start mid-January,
Okay.
and in theory, it's supposed to take 6 weeks of work. Plus, we have to train people. We have to train, the club and whoever we're going to get to run the other shows. I want as many people, including Marco Tool sound guy and so forth, trained So we're going to have some training sessions and some practice sessions, and then we'll reopen it. Until then, everything will be in here. All right, not ideal, but better than nothing.
Okay, at least I could tell her something.
Hi, my name's Mary Hoover, and since we're on the subject of the theater, I'm president of the Spotlight Club.
Right.
And as you know, we are one of the theater groups. And Bob's right, we get no respect. But one item that really bothers me is that every year, as you know, the clubs are supposed to submit their schedule requests between June and August for the following year. And every year, repeatedly, every other club gets their request filled and is put on the calendar before we hear whether or not we are getting any of the dates we want, any of the rooms we want. As of noon today, we were still not on the community calendar.
Okay, yeah, that's an issue to deal with Danielle
Well,
and Sandy about.
I have talked to Danielle repeatedly. I've asked JD repeatedly, and I'm asking you to get involved to do something for us.
Wonderful.
All right, okay. Doris will, as she has volunteered, will get involved with that.
Hello, my name is Drew Rounds, and this question may have been covered in the past, and I'm sorry if I missed the
No.
explanation. We moved in here in 2013, and at the time, the facilities were open until 10 o'clock. Now, I realize COVID had somewhat of an effect on staffing at that time. However, that's over. What is the real reason the facilities are not open till 10 p.m. at night?
In great part, it was a change due to COVID in terms of hours that staff was willing to work or not. And part of it was staff really strongly saying they were getting home too late or coming in too early.
Uh-huh.
And also we looked at use data and well, and I would say with that, you can say, well, take a hike and go work elsewhere, but understand, in the labor pool market today, it's tough to get people to work up here because there's no public transportation. And so, you have a dilemma. You can let these people go and now try to find new people and have to add $5, $6, $7, $8 more an hour to pay them. So, given that along with use data, where not that many people were using it from 9 to 10, yes, there were some, and early in the morning from 5 to 6, we made the decision to, retain staff to go from 6 to 9.
Well, when we moved in here in the evenings, we noticed that the activity, for instance, the game room, the tables, the pool table, whatever it might be, the place was jam-packed until 10 o'clock at night. Now, so I'm not quite understanding why all of a sudden you can't get people to work. How about a shift from 4 to 10? Find people to work from 4 to 10. Is that a difficult thing, or is it because nobody wants to work from 4 to 10?
You get a lot of people who those aren't convenient hours, particularly if you have a family or you're single parent.
Uh-huh.
So
Have you tried to put a notice out to the community that we need people up here, like a help wanted to the community of Las Vegas to work these particular hours?
okay, one of the things that, it's do you want to be paying $5 to $6, $7 more per hour to get those people? that's going to mean we're going to have to increase our staffing dollars even more. So it comes back to, is that something you want to pay for?
Yeah, we must leave at 8:30 at night for our activity. We happen to have a poker game going and we have to vacate at 8:30 at night. Now, what I understand is you're saying that nobody will work 4 to 10 or 2 to 10 without getting an additional $8 an hour. Is that your explanation?
I'm using that as an example.
all right.
It's more metaphorical than hard fact. But yes, I mean, it would be, Doris, if you want to chime in terms of dealing with staff and part of this decision, that would be fine. But I think I've given you the parameters.
Stephen, do you want me to make a comment?
Fine.
So you've basically covered it, and our monitors are part-time employees, and the lion's share of the monitors for the building reside here in our residence and have made it clear to us that they don't have a desire to work past 9 o'clock. We don't have a lot of monitors that are non-SCA residents. We routinely advertise all across the greater Las Vegas area in a multiple of ways to hire for those positions as well as housekeeping positions. Those two particular categories of employees are the hardest ones to fill. It's kind of a revolving door at times. And so I hear what you're saying about going back to 10 p.m. I don't think the board is adverse to it, nor is management, and we can continue to look at that. As it stands right now, the numbers for what's happening in the centers doesn't necessarily make it something that maybe we should be doing, but it doesn't mean it can't change. And we can look at that again at the beginning of next year. It's not an issue to review it and see where we're at.
Well, I have noticed that there are not many people in here at 8:30 or 9, but possibly that's because they got so frustrated that they didn't want to spend their time over here and get evicted at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, and they just gave it up.
Well, you have why we made the change. It's not to say we can't reverse and keep it open until 10. It's something we can look at, but it's an issue of finding people who are willing to work that late.
Well, there's another issue too. During the post-COVID period, when we were open again, I hope it's post-COVID. Okay, we all do, right? This place has been pretty empty. More recently, though, it's begun to fill up. I remember coming out of a meeting 2 weeks ago, and for the first time, I looked at the gallery and it was full during the day. I mean, it was usually just a few spot places. We just had the club fair and it was loaded with people from opening to close. So I think we're beginning to see people coming back. And I think the board will need to take some action to deal with the fact that we probably do need some more things covered. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Brent Nelson. I'm a villa owner, and from what I understood, this meeting was any question about anything?
Yes,
Any question about anything?
absolutely.
That's still an option?
Absolutely.
Okay. With the villa added assessment of a little over $1,400 a quarter, are they going to maintain the grass like it is? Or are we going to just let it die? The trees, my villa area looks like crap. The grass is dying, there's dead spots, dirt spots, the pine trees are dying, and yet nothing's being done. If I'm still paying money to maintain that stuff, please maintain it. If we're not gonna maintain it because of we're gonna pull it out in a year, then tell everybody so that they'll know that it looks like crap, it looks like crap
No,
because.
there is no plan to tear it out. You know, we know that you have to do something with the front and sides to remove turf by the end of 2026. But no, we're not letting things die because we have a plan to pull them out. So, please register that with Larry and indicate where things are bad.
And I have, and we do weed abatement in the winter.
Right.
Whippy dippy do. Weed abatement is weed abatement. These are dead spots.
Well-
They've been there all year.
Okay.
They are still there and it's close to winter, not quite there.
Okay.
Um,
We're up to renegotiating the Villa landscape contract.
Fire them. They're not
Well,
doing their damn
and,
job.
and, we can go back and we can request more services that will cost more, but
Why are we maintaining it if it has to come out anyway? Let it die. I'd just as soon let it die as try to maintain it.
We have somebody that could speak to that in the room if you'd like. We have,
Bruce, you want to get a mic? Bruce is the head of facilities and landscaping.
Through the end of the month. Yeah, we have to keep the grass running and growing and it has to be active grass growing and well-maintained or we don't get the credits. So if we,
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm just saying that if we don't maintain the grass, then we don't get credits for any kind of a rebate or anything else because it's dead. They want to take out grass that is being maintained. That's.
no, this is something that we hope that the villas will, with the new election, with new reps, will work to address these issues, both in terms of future, what you want to do in the future with front and sides that we know will need turf taken out. And, then what are you going to do in the backyards? And the dilemma right now with the backyards is without a decision to remove the grass or to keep the grass, if we take out a diseased tree or a dead bush, what we plant will depend upon whether you keep the grass or whether you go to desert landscaping because you have different kinds of plants. And so also there's a problem in many of the villa areas of access to the backs, not all, but a number of them, where the landscapers will tell us it would be better to start the project in the back and then do the front, because that's the only way you're going to get heavy equipment in the backyard without damaging what you've done in the front. So there are some caveats and some issues that need to be discussed with villa owners in terms of what's the future direction going to be.
Stephen, I was just going to add that on December 13th at the Villa neighborhood meeting to elect new Villa advisory reps, we're going to have a discussion about your existing landscape contract, what that looks like, how it flows, and answer specific questions with the Villa owners and the fact that about rebidding as well. So it's set for 1:30 and it's also going to get recorded. I think it's 1 or 1:30. It's recorded and it's also a go-to meeting if you can't attend. It will be recorded.
Okay, and as I understand, that needs a quorum. And people will be told that a quorum is needed.
So yes, we mailed a letter to all the villa reps. That's how you know that there's a quorum. Oh, I'm sorry, villa owners. Yes, that's right. So each different villa will need a different number to get a quorum. It's 15%, correct, 15% plus one. And that meeting is at 1:30. And you can attend via GoTo if you can't be here. It's an option.
One more question. Are the financial books open to the public? Are we allowed to see them? And again, in the villas case where we have all of a sudden no reserve, is there a way to go back and find out what caused the no reserve to be there? What big project was spent to get us to zero?
Well, you're not at zero. But yeah, all the financials are online. They're all part of the board books and minutes of the meetings. So you can find that information. One of the things that, we had not in the past targeted landscape costs into looking at reserving. I think that change was made around 2020, where landscape items came into the reserve. That was just standard kind of industry wide. And your reserves are really fine until we came all of a sudden to this crisis of saying you have a mandate from the Southwest or the Southern Nevada Water Authority to tear out your grass because of how they've, classified your homes, saying the turf needs to go, and along with the turf then goes the trees, and that needs to be done. And then the question of, do we do desert landscaping in the back or not? And so you didn't have enough money to do it.
Steve, can I make a couple comments? At one of the board of directors meetings, I accused the previous boards of not managing the reserves for the villas properly. I immediately got a phone call from one of the people from the villas who had been a villas representative for 12 years. And this is what she told me. Going back to about two different reserve studies, the roofs underlying tar paper, I'll call it, was added to the reserves, and it caused a huge jump in the dues for the villa owners. Villa owners went ballistic. And so they negotiated with the board to have the roofs of the villas come and be part of the owners of the villas. When that happened, the reserve amount of money in the reserves was almost 300% of what was required. So the boards at that time returned money to the homeowners. Now we're 10 years later, and there is still money in the reserves of each of the villas, but it's around 17% of what is required. And so this is why the board felt that we had to start building up the villa reserves for the future. Now, at least once every 2 weeks in the Review Journal, there is an article about the water problems that we're all having. The decision to just do the front yards was made by the Southern Nevada Water Authority. They just made that decision. I personally feel that they're going to make another decision sometime in the next year or so that all non-essential turf is going to have to be removed. They can make one arbitrary decision, they can make another one. And so we're looking for the future, trying to build up the villa reserves so that when the water authority does require everything, that there will be enough money in there.
I think one of the things we are about ready to approve a contract for our next reserve study. And we've talked with a vendor, Gary Porter, who also does our audit and does our taxes. And, you know, he addressed the issue of the level of funding, 17%, 300%. And he said he prefers really, you know, because you can calculate those in different ways. And it's sometimes hard to attach meaning to levels of funding. Rather, he prefers to see it as a budget tool to say, do you have adequate cash flow to do what you need to do? And so what we know right now, in order to complete the projects of meeting the mandate that we have today, we don't have the cash flow to do that. And so that was where the decision was made. We'll take it over 2 years. People can pay over 2 years. We'll fund the reserves to a point where you will have adequate cash flow to do that work, to do what's necessary in the back, to refurbish that, whether it's desert landscaping or retaining grass and planting back grass or trees that grow in grass, or vice versa. And then you will have the cash flow to do that work. So we fully recognize it was a very painful decision for the board in terms of making that, because we know that's a hardship and we struggle with the villas and their issues of increasing, you know, money needed to carry out the work.
By the way, the villas are the only place where there is a real problem with cash and the reserves. The main association does have cash to do the things that we are doing.
Where did that reserve money go?
So to answer your question, sir, from earlier, there are all the financials online. There's also videotapes of at least 5 meetings that we've had with the villa owners and the board where we discussed this in great detail. So just to kind of move the meeting forward a little bit, I'm going to refer you to the website to get all of that. And then if you want to get together and discuss it, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, and that is that one of the things that bumped the amount of reserve that you needed, independent of the water authority stuff, was that as many landscaping things were, in fact, no landscaping, I think, prior to 2017 or 16 was in the main reserve even though we have up 10 miles of landscaping out on the streets as well as all the centers. Okay, it was a big mistake. And that happened to a lot of other communities, and eventually it became the standard to put it back in. What happens to the community here is we're 22 years old. That piping, the controllers, everything you had there was not covered in your reserve. All right. And at the time, the villas did not have it bumped. When it did get bumped, that suddenly took a high percent that they had and lowered it to a low percent because the cost of all that piping and water heads and controllers and wiring that has to be replaced suddenly appeared in the reserve. So that happened a few years ago. And suddenly the reserves went from a nice, comfortable number for that to that. When you then add in the future, just the stuff we're mandated to do, bang, it goes up again.
When the reserve started to go down.
They can't hear you.
Yep.
Let me rephrase that for the people online. So bottom line, we should have had a smaller increase in the assessments to cover that when it happened, instead of trying to bail it out now after the fact with a super large reserve, which is devastating to people on
Well,
fixed
yeah, but
incomes.
remember the super large includes something that wasn't predictable to even 2 years ago, which was the water mandate. I mean, we all saw the lake going down, but we didn't know that anybody was going to do what they did to us.
We're not talking water mandate now.
No.
You said that
Right.
the water irrigation, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff
that
needed to be
system
rebuilt.
should have been,
So it was
What has been,
funded,
but-
it was funded and rebuilt.
yeah, or
Well, when
maintained,
you
yes.
spent that money, or whoever spent that money, they should have increased their HOAs then to replace it then, 3-5 years ago. Then we would have had a $100 increase instead of a $1,400 increase.
At that point, yes.
So it goes back to where was the management and the due diligence at that 3 to
Yeah.
5 years ago when they saw the reserves
And-
going
and
down?
The reality is, these end up as decisions that are jointly made by the board primarily, and with some input from your representatives. And there's been a history here of trying to keep the dues low and kick the can forward. What's happened here is you've got a board that doesn't want to kick cans anymore.
All right. Yes. Right here, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Lynn Tombara, and I am a resident and also an instructor. And I want to talk about the fitness fees changes
Okay,
that were just brought out. Can you hear me? Is this better? Okay.
better.
So let me tell you, I'm actually meeting with the financial committee on the 14th, next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. I had sent over some proposal, part of my proposal. I'm a business development person, and I saw some changes. And on the other hand, being a fitness instructor, I have seen the changes and the morale and the boosting of the people who attend classes. Now, one thing I want to say is that I was so surprised when the new fee changes came out, and it says that no longer subsidized classes. We will no more subsidy. Meanwhile, at the presentation that was given and this handout was sent to us who attended, it says that these are the recommendations by the finance committee, that we will go ahead and maintain class costs within the 20% subsidy guideline. So as a lot of people like you, sir, could not stay till 10 o'clock because of COVID, a lot of people did not come to exercise because they were worried about COVID. But now that is now growing. But I don't understand all the changes made. I said I'm presenting a proposal that will really help everybody, and also with fee program that will keep people here. As you all know, we are all on a budget. I'm one of all of you. And if we can work it out, but the changes were made without even me being allowed to send this and prepare and talk to the committee. Now, I did speak with the CFO before Thanksgiving, and she kindly organized so I can be at the meeting. But meanwhile, these changes come out. Everybody is in distress, and we need, I hope that do you make a decision how to collect and pay for the instructors? Because it seems like It's already be determined how it's going to be paid for. Meanwhile, with my program that I'm going to provide for you, it will show how we can do this without doing a 10 class pass, this and that, this and that. But I was just really appalled, and no one had the common courtesy to email me, call me, and let me know that you're going to go ahead with this. Meanwhile, I've had a committee, my people, put together something that would really help.
Well, ma'am, one of the things you can always do, you can always email me or any of the other board members. Our email addresses are in the front of the Spirit. So don't tell it, no one can say you can't, convey this to somebody. You can always email it directly to the board.
And so that's why I spoke with the CFO and going to the finance committee, because there's the one who made up this proposal.
Right. They're largely responsible for that.
Right.
And made the recommendations to the board. Now, we certainly are committed to continuing the subsidy.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Subsidy's
absolutely.
20%.
But it doesn't say in here, sir.
I don't know
That-
what you have.
The fee changes that were printed out. Okay. It was on the pardon me, sir. It's on the e-blast. Yes.
The e-blast
Okay,
might
thank
not
you.
have mentioned the 20% subsidy.
She has
Okay,
the
Hold on.
e-blast right
Hold
here.
on a second.
that was an error.
Paper,
It was an error.
hold on a second. The paper that was mailed out might not have mentioned the 20% subsidy that is built into the budget. The budget was also mailed out to all the owners. So look there, you'll see the 20%. That which was mailed
That's wrong.
just gives you the new
Yeah.
class rates. It didn't go into what the budget covered.
The e-blast is stated wrong.
Well, why wasn't another e-blast sent out immediately and
Because
said,
I don't think anyone caught it until you brought it up.
management didn't look at that and see that? Yes. Who do we believe anymore?
Wait, don't take one mistake and say,
Oh, sir, I'm sorry. I think this gentleman had something going on. This gentleman had something going on. So I
every
apologize.
situation is different.
I
will say.
apologize. But this is extremely important. And the other thing is, in my program, I will show you how having the fitness classes is actually revenue for you to come to you.
Fine. We're committed to trying to get back. Today, we are subsidizing about 40%. We want to move that back to 20%.
And I agree with you.
So
The problem was quarterly review of the cost wasn't done this past year. You would have caught it the first quarter. I know you gentlemen would have caught it. Too much money. Yes. And then the cuts could have been made and the next quarter would have shown, yes, okay, now we're getting it. And if it's still too much, we cut more. Okay? It's profit. You bring income in and you pay it out.
So we look forward to hearing before the meeting what you decide with the finance committee with your proposal.
So then again, I brought it up. We changed all of our figures without the subsidy. So then now I can go back and with your words, sir, that we will have a subsidy of 20%.
There
I
is
want to
a
work it in.
20% subsidy.
Ma'am, can I
definitely
read
is.
the appropriate sentence? Okay. The
Sure.
price increases made during the 2023 budget review process and a policy change regarding association subsidies. You have 3 members of the board here right now. We did not authorize a policy change in the subsidies.
So
We did not, I don't know
Who
where
did
this,
that?
where this wording came from, but we did not authorize the policy. There was no policy change in the subsidies.
who authorized it?
Okay, I think
No.
we're hung up on a word. There, if you look at the budget has always allowed for a 20% subsidy against the fitness fees. But you've been paying a lot more than 20%, right?
And
So that letter that was sent to everybody was intended to tell you what the new class fees are and about that 10 class pack and all of that. There isn't a policy change, but there is a change to what we put in the budget on how much the fitness classes are going to be subsidized by everybody's fees that are paid in. So we were subsidizing, say like 70%. We're going back down to what the policy is, which is 20.
Which is great. But that sentence in there, who put the sentence in there? Who?
Staff obviously wrote that email. If you had questions, you're welcome to call our office. But I'm telling you right now that there's been no policy change. It's 20%. It stayed the same. You get a meeting with the finance committee, right? So let's wait till after the meeting.
Well,
Go over your concerns with them and then we'll go from there.
Oh, but the thing of it is,
I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention because we.
gentlemen, you are going to get a lot of emails about this because over 200, almost 300 people are upset about this. And unfortunately, it may land on your shoulder, which you had no idea.
Yeah, just understand.
I will make announcement
All right,
too.
can I say a word?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Just understand that the prices for the classes were calculated based on the 20%. The fact that the text at the top is wrong does not change the values of the prices. All right. So anybody wants to complain about the prices, what we just said, which is the 20%, is in there already. It just isn't stated. Okay.
Right. But
Now, the one thing we removed, which was all the classes you can take pass, was what was causing us to have to subsidize at a much higher rate. I'll also point out something. I'm working on the website project right now. Part of my work was to go to every Sun City and look at their website, and some of them publish the cost of their classes. $17 is the typical price for a class, not 3 or 4.
I'm afraid though, sir, what I'm going to show on the 14th, 9 o'clock, will be eye-opening and how
Good.
business can be
Good.
done.
Good.
And I
Good.
hope that,
And please
can
show it. We look
you
forward
make
to
a
it.
change though? I want one question, if I may. Can what you have put in here, can that be changed? Can
Yes.
this be changed? It is, so if I do show it to you that there's a way that you don't, then you will not stand by this?
We're already open. We're always open to better proposals.
I mean, to start January, sir.
Well, we'd have to work through a couple board meetings to get it done.
But can it be changed by an amendment, sir?
Change what?
Because you're saying that these are the prices.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those are the published prices now, and I understand that you're going to meet with the finance committee and you're going to come back with a bigger, better policy change, and that's great. I don't know if we could implement that by January 1st,
Well-
but we can get it before the board by January 1st. There's a process that they'll have to go through. We have to have a meeting. They have to vote for it at an open meeting, but the way that you're starting it is the right way. So you go to the finance committee, make your recommendations. Both of those, yours and the finance committees, will come to the board,
Okay.
and then they'll make that decision.
The thing of it is,
But it won't be by January 1st. It's not going to happen.
I will be, I'm second liaison to the finance committee. And so I will be there and I will be happy to introduce you if necessary.
thank you.
See me afterwards.
Oh,
And
wonderful. And if the thing of it is you're telling me if it can't be changed January 1st, people are trying to figure out what are they going to do? Do I have to drive to another gym and try to take classes there? That's the whole reason, sir, why I pushed and wanted to meet with, and thank you very much, sir, that to meet. And if these don't have to stay in and can be changed for January, that would be great. I really invite you to come see the people who do take classes?
We've met many of them in
Oh, you
town
have?
halls, and we've heard from them
Wonderful.
on a number of occasions in the past, yes.
Thank you.
We have this gentleman over here. We have this lady right here. Doris, we have this lady here next. Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Yes, Arnold Hinden. I'd like to ask, what accountant, we have millions of accountants on the board and in the back room, who makes an unlimited pass? For a
What?
certain-
Who
Who
makes-
makes an unlimited pass that people go to classes from morning till night and unlimited passes? They're paying like 37 cents a class. I want to know what accountant, that you've got a board of accountants. Doesn't anybody do a cost analysis
Yes.
before they make an unlimited pass?
That-
It should have been done away with a long time ago.
Yes, it happened a long time ago.
But-
and so we're dealing with that.
Yeah, now.
Yeah,
But people are on a sugar high of getting things for free. And when you take things away from people, you get people aggravated. So
Yes.
I want to know what accountant, we've got accountants on the board all over the place. We pay a lot of money to accountants in the back. Who makes decisions?
Quite frankly, previous board came up with this 80-20. And up until COVID, that largely was being met, the 80-20 split. Even though people with the unlimited pass, some of them were paying ridiculously low amounts. And so as long as the 20% was being met, that was fine. COVID hit and we were subsidizing 40% and it was beginning to grow. And we said, no, we've got to get this under control. And so we did away with the unlimited pass. We came up with basically where classes would cost $3 that we felt was a fair price. And that is what the proposal is that is in the current board book, basically.
Well, if you have the 10,
Well, $4, but
well, if you have the 10 pass, it's $3 roughly.
it's gone.
It's gone.
Right. Yes.
I don't know.
I don't
Gone
know.
now.
We
It's
weren't on the
over.
board at the time.
The unlimited pass is gone. Do you have one more thing you want to say?
So let me tell you my proposal that I'm bringing up. That'll show. Wait, this is my student.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
not argue with people.
It doesn't matter. I'm an instructor. I get paid one price. Okay? Doesn't matter if I have 3 people, 50 people in my class, I get paid the same. So that whole thing, it wasn't explained right. Okay. That's all I got to say.
The problem, as I say, I come back to, we began to no longer be able to meet the 80-20 agreed on level of subsidy, and it was growing. And so that what has created this change. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Janice Rounds and I live in Black Mountain Village. One of my big concerns up here, okay?
Speak loud.
Pardon me?
Speak into the mic.
Oh, okay. One of my big concerns up here is the way I see the landscaping deteriorating. We lived in Seven Hills before we moved up here, and I remember when they pulled out the grass in the greenbelt areas, I thought, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. And they planted the most beautiful desert landscaping. We drive past the center median between Ashley and Merrimack Falls all the time.
It's awful.
And it's terrible.
Yep.
They pulled everything out and you see sprinkler lines sticking up and weeds. And I want to know when something's going to be done about it because I'm embarrassed now to have my friends drive up here.
I encourage you to attend Anthem Council meetings. All of that landscape is under the auspices and is dealt with by Anthem Community Council. And right now, they are paying for the turf removal down by,
Coventry.
yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
looks much better than what they've done up here.
Yeah, well, they anticipate they'll do this in a year or 2 years.
Well, another wonderful thing they did is they put up that wall where they put the sidewalks, which looks terrible. Should have.
That the
it should
city
be-
did.
It should be painted or something needs to be done with it.
Yeah, I've got some
information.
information on that. I talked to our rep. Basically, community council is a combination of all the people,
Right.
all the HOAs on the hill, if you like. There are 5, I believe. 6? Okay, thanks. And we pay a lot of money for that.
Mhm.
And basically, it comes directly into your dues because that's the way it saves some money for them. It's cheaper for everybody to just put it in their dues. And they've increased it to try to even do this grass removal. Like everybody else, somebody's got to pay for it. And it's expensive because you have to replace things too. But I talked to them about the wall because I agree with you.
It's
All
awful.
right. And the city put it in. They immediately started complaining. They're working their way through the bureaucracy of the city, which is no mean task. Okay. And they're trying to get something fixed. And so far, they've not succeeded, but they're still aggressively pursuing it. Whether they succeed or not, I have no idea. It's the city's property in that place. And, you know, all we can do is complain. I would suggest, and it's actually very helpful if you do this, write the city as an individual, get your friends to do that as individuals. It turns out that has the strongest effect, stronger than even the community council calling them.
You know, I spoke with somebody over at the city of Henderson and they said that there was all that work, the sidewalk work and the retaining walls was done on a grant and that there were no plans to do anything with it.
Right.
Yeah,
Probably
that's always been their
an
excuse on this
honest answer.
project.
They don't plan on doing anything with it.
So they're not planning on doing that stretch from Ashley to Merrimack for 2 years? It's going to sit and look like that? I was also under the impression that even though it belongs to the city of Henderson, it was our responsibility. to
Not
maintain the
ours.
land.
It
It's not
belongs to the
Anthem Council.
responsibility of Anthem Community Council.
Yeah, let's be clear, the sidewalks and the changes due to the sidewalks in the city of Henderson. Okay, but once they've done it, they become ours, or actually Anthem Community Councils, in this case, sidewalks to maintain.
Mhm.
And this is not the best arrangement in the universe for anybody, but the city is the city and they outrank us. So the best we can do is complain. And the more people individually that complain, the better off we are. We're certainly pushing community council to improve that strip because we hate it also.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm a real estate agent and what's going on is hurting our home values.
Right. No,
The community has just deteriorated since we've moved up here
Art
8 years
Schutz
ago.
is our representative on the Anthem Community
it?
Council, Art Schutz. And I complain to him every time about, can't you at least kill the weeds? You know, when are you going to do the medians? And, you know, he said it's like next year. But I agree, it's horrible looking. Yeah.
Looks a lot better by Anthem Country Club.
So, you know, but if we had control of it, we would fix it right away. We wouldn't allow it to go on, but we're not the responsible party. And again, it's important. Anthem Community Council meets every 3 months. I think they'll have another meeting probably in February or March. And they usually meet at Solera or here. And they have a website. You can Google the Anthem Community Council, and they have a website, and that will give you information about them and how to contact them. Okay, right here, and then we have this lady up front. Hi.
Hi. My name's Nona Tobin. I've been a member in good standing here since 2004, and I was elected to the board in 2017, and I was removed unlawfully, and I have applied for the board every year since that time, and have been unable to serve because of Sandy Sudden and Adam Clarkson. And I would like to ask.
No names here, please, for anything. Okay, that's our policy.
Okay, so the chief operating officer and the HOA attorney, I would like to ask the board what they told you this last time that made you decide not to fill the vacant position on the board.
They didn't tell us anything. No. We met as a board to talk about the vacancy. And as I recall the conversation, we said, to bring a new person in, it's going to take time to get them oriented. And we said, we have a very collaborative group and we work so well together. Let's just leave it at 6. We'll wait until the election comes up and fill it at that time. The board made the decision to not choose or, to appoint a person into that position. There was no discussion with Adam or with Sandy or anyone else. It was purely a board decision.
Are you aware that when we an election in 2021, it was because they said that there were no more applicants than the number of board vacancies, when in fact, I was an applicant and I was qualified legally to serve?
I'm not going to talk about specific cases. I would just tell people in the audience, when people apply for the board, we have all of the candidates go through a vetting process. I'm not going to debate that. Our attorney has said it's legal. In fact, it's seen as avoiding a lot of problems down the line. But, you can have that as your opinion, but our opinion is going to be different. We feel it is legal, and we're fully aware of what the attorney comes up. Look, the attorney, there's this perception somehow that the evil attorney and our management team, we're nothing but the puppets of them. We're quite, in fact, that it couldn't be farther from the truth. We're aware of everything that Adam, our attorney, does for us. We will at times, we give him his instructions. So, to say that he's doing something unbeknownst to any of us, no, we know what's going on. And so, we choose to vet our candidates, and if there is anything that needs to be disclosed, we ask that to be disclosed. And as long as the candidate discloses, they're fine. They can run.
I would like to say that I was new and ran, and I disclosed the fact that I had been a monitor many years ago, but I disclosed it. I know at least one other member of the candidates also disclosed a number of things, and he was elected. So at least 2 of us were vetted, and since we had disclosed what our situation was, we were allowed to run. So that's a personal observation.
Okay. Yes, right here.
This probably has to do with the city. Have you any knowledge of the lights, street lights being turned down? Well,
Turned down.
yeah.
What do you mean?
Are we
turned?
getting less light?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that when lights go out, there are two different, if you look at the light poles through your neighborhood, there are different kinds of lights. There's kind of a rounded bulbous kind of light and then a very flat one. And when one of the rounded bulbs goes out, I think that's a halogen light bulb, and they will take and replace that head with the flat LED light fixture. And you may find that that has less light, or depending on your view of it. Yes. One thing, can we get you on a mic?
I think you can hear me without.
No, the people online can't hear you.
I don't know if you remember, but several years ago, all of the street lights that are internal to the villages were replaced with lower lights.
It was a few years ago.
Yes, it's been several years ago now. They left most of the main on Sun City Anthem Boulevard and a few of the others. Some of those brighter lights they left. But internal to the community, you can hardly walk the streets at night because it's so dark. Because when they replace those lights, if there's cloudy or no moon up above, it's barely light enough for you to be walking on the street safely.
Okay. And I know they've been changing out the kinds of lights that are up there.
Those changing out the lights doesn't make any difference. It's the lighting system that they had changed out and installed subsequently to the old system. Okay. The streets that are on the main roads are still bright enough. You can walk along them. You can see. The ones internal to the villages are not bright enough or safe enough for the people in the community.
So again, talk to the city.
So you don't know if they decided to turn the lights down this year?
I don't know if, I don't follow what.
Can I make some comments? I was in the lighting business my whole business career. The metal halide lights will definitely decrease in light output over life. And so this is what we're seeing. The lights have been installed for many years and the lights are still on, but the light output from the light bulb has decreased. That is not a function of replacing, it's just a function of the actual light itself. The LED lights that they have been putting on some of the streets do not decrease that much. If a metal halide light will decrease 50%, an LED light will maybe decrease 10%. So they are putting in Black Mountain Village on Turner Falls, half of the street has been put in with LED lights and the other half of the street has kept the metal halide lights on there. There is a definite improvement with the LED lights on Turner Falls. There's same light poles, same mounting height, except that the LED light puts out an awful lot more light for the amount of wattage. They have not done this everywhere. Maybe they should have, but they have not. Anyway, that's the problem with all the lights in the metal halide area. It's the light bulb has decreased in its light output and the city has not replaced the lights.
So one of the things that every light pole has a number, that you will find a number on it. And if you give the city the approximate address and the number of that light pole and say, I think the light is really getting dim and maybe needs to be replaced, then they will come out and investigate it, and they usually do it within a week or two. So, but you have to contact the city and give them that specific information. or if you have multiple light poles, give them the numbers, discrete numbers, and say it's between here, and here are the numbers of those poles. All right. Hi.
This isn't a bitch session for me. I just trying to gather information because I hear different pieces of things at different places around the center. I know we've had an increase in the HOA. That was a bit of a shock. And our activities are increasing. I'm being told that that's inflation. It's increasing everywhere. And then I see that there's some really big bites that we've had to take this year. We're starting a restaurant. I am in favor of the restaurant. I think that's a great idea. I understand all of the meetings and all of the discussions. Then I heard that we're going to put $1 million this year into sounds at the theater. That was a bit of a surprise because we have some other big bills this year. Then the East Lawn, and I was here and talked to Steve about that East Lawn. I understand it's not a choice for us, that it's something we have to do, and it's a big expense. Then we have salaries, and I asked some people about salaries, and I was referred to the Review Journal article a few years ago about how high our salaries are here compared to others. I have a curiosity about that. And wondering if, with all these big expenses that we're having, if I have my budget and my AC breaks, I need to get that fixed. But I was also planning on buying a new refrigerator this year. So do we reprioritize our expenditures here at Sun City Anthem when unexpected expenses such as the East Lawn events comes up?
One thing about those, some of the things you mentioned were actually paid for last year. All right. So one of the projects like the theater has a 22-year-old sound system. We were in the middle of a Mark O'Toole show when all the lights went out because a room full of transformers decided that it couldn't handle the load. And we weren't using very much, and there wasn't that much activity on the stage, just sound. And the reality is it was time to replace and clean the thing up and modernize the system to get better everything, including things like the hearing and everything else that we have to do there. But you're right, there are some expenses that we did not plan for. Obviously, the city, the state and Southern Nevada Water District thing is something that we're paying for, but it's coming out of the reserves. We did not have to come up and ask people for money, at least at this stage, for that project. We are deferring we have deferred at least one project I know of that would have been a big project, which would have been the solar. We're not doing it because the interest rates went through the roof. And we're certainly going to try to be careful here. We don't have a lot of big projects planned for the next year or so because of the economy.
I think one of the things that, when you look at our budget, understand in terms of as you compare it to yourself, we have the reserve and operating. And it'd be like if you operated in that way for your refrigerator, for your AC, you'd be putting aside so much money every year to replace them. And you would have figured that out, what their lifespan is and how much you need, if it's $1,000 a year or, whatever. And so that's building up in an account. And so if all of a sudden you need an AC, okay, you take it out of your reserve, you plan for it, and you just pay the $15,000, $18,000, whatever it costs, and you get a new AC. Same with your refrigerator.
So if you have the reserve, why did HOAs go up? Why wouldn't it just come out of the reserve?
Well, because one, of inflation. We had higher employee costs. For instance, now I think our base employment level was $12 an hour. That's now $15 an hour. I remember the discussion around housekeeping staff was like at 14, and we had to put that up to $17, $18 to attract people, to even get people to come interview for us.
So was the articles in the Review Journal, and I agree that it's not current, it happened a while ago, but was that an error? Are we not paying more than other HOAs and the mayors of the surrounding towns?
Well, you know, we get into, you know, a lot of the issue has been focused over the years on what Sandy gets paid. Now, I don't apologize for that. She was hired by a past board on a national search by a search company, and they valued that this was what she was worth to be paid. She has a reputation as being one of the best managers and HOA COOs in the country. She is held in esteem throughout the state by her peers. So, you know, is she overpaid? That's all in your eye. I think we have a good deal.
Was the salary increase across the board? Was it
No.
from Sandy
No.
down, or was it just?
No,
No, we put in a 6%, but that is a pool. It's going to be based on merit, of which, you know, some is going to make people may get 2%, some may get 10%. You know, it will be looked at by each department head in terms of deciding how that gets allocated. It doesn't mean everyone gets an automatic 6%.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. When I was working, I usually had one boss. Sandy has 7,144 bosses. I get emails from her at 3 a.m. They're dated 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And she is responding to all of you. You have a direct line to her and she responds to you. And so any one of you who would like to take on having 7,144 bosses, why don't you volunteer to assist Sandy? Something else, she does not have an assistant COO. When you talk about all the mayors and other people, they have staffs just for them. She does not have a staff. Yes, there are directors operating things, but Sandy does not have a staff.
also, in terms of her salary, I used to manage large programming organizations in the computer industry. And pretty much she's making about what my average programmer was making. And they had very little responsibility, but one little piece.
We have over here.
As both a former board vice president and someone who sat through the entire process of hiring our new staff and Sandy, it gets kind of frustrating at times when people don't realize the circumstance of what it took to bring her in here. She wasn't hired to take over an existing HOA as it stood. She was hired in part to convert us from having our management done by a management company to be self-managed. None of the people who worked here at that time were our employees. They were employees of the management company. And when the executive search firm was hired, when that process was underway, at monthly board meetings, a presentation was made with slides and everything by our own search committee, which was made up of a subcommittee of board members. The board didn't decide what to pay her. The executive search firm told the board, told the association what the going rate was to come in and convert us to being a self-managed HOA. They tried to find someone in the state of Nevada who was qualified. They couldn't do it. They said, we have to go national. And converting us over from a management company to self-management was a 3-year process. And it took 3 years until it was completed. People who present a one-sided view also overlook the fact that she volunteered to come in here approximately 6 months early, which allowed us to terminate the contract of the management company, saving us almost $300,000. People just totally forget that that ever happened. We continue to be ranked among the top 10 HOAs in America, and it doesn't happen by accident.
Anyone else? Yes, we have a comment. Okay. And then afterwards, this lady over here.
Hi, I'm Leon from Ridgecrest. I'm new here. Just wondering if you could give us an
Speak into the
update
mic.
on the restaurant.
How
much, an update?
Okay. Where are we at? At next week's board meeting, we are going to authorize an amount of money to up to a certain amount of money to repair, make all of the repairs to the equipment in the back of the house. There are stoves that need new thermostats, gizmos. The equipment needs to be repaired. It's been sitting there for unused for a while, so we've got to make sure it works. Then we are going to let the contract for the renovation of the front of the house, and also authorize an amount not to exceed for the purchase of the furnishings for it, tables, chairs. Although I think with tables, we're refinishing, aren't we refinishing? No, we're not refinishing tables. So that will all then, with that authorization, we will then have a company that can begin work on the renovations. We can start acquiring the furniture, and we can repair all of the equipment in the back of the house. So that will get us ready to open, of which we're probably realistically looking at late March, April 1, somewhere in there. But who knows? You know, it may go faster. It's supply chain issues on furniture and stuff like that. But we think we've managed all of that. So we're moving along. And that's kind of the schedule. Sandy has been, and people working with the restaurant have been kind of saying end of the first quarter of next year. So we're getting close.
Diana Carmel, I live in Black Mountain. Closer maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have my papers. I just came to see what this meeting was all about. And it was my understanding that a town hall meeting was one in which the residents could give input before decisions were made. And I kind of feel that from what I've been hearing, that we have a lot of problems that decisions are just being made and then it's like too bad for everybody else. I mean, we start with the theater, the man that was over there that he's seen, I don't know him. I don't know any of these people that were here today. It seems as though he's a specialist in the industry, probably retired, and we're probably lucky to have him. And it appears that from where I sit, his recommendations were totally ignored. The lady behind him who was with the one of the theater groups, that they didn't get a response or an answer. the lady who had an information concerning the hearing aids, people, we're in a senior community. There are a lot of people here who can't hear or have hearing disabilities. And I would think that we are not functioning according to the Disabilities Act to provide a means of having everybody be able to, at least in this case, since it was brought up, to hear. As far as the 9 o'clock closing, when the clubs close down at 9, they actually start closing down around 8:30. I mean, this is like dinner hour for some people. And I don't agree with what you're saying about we can't get staff. We have what, 7,190 some people here. If you put out a job search for part-time people for monitors or whatever, I'm sure you could fill it from within the community.
We do put out those announcements.
Oh, I've never gotten one. I've never seen one. Where do you put it out?
It's on the
Where do you put
e-blast.
it? I've never seen it.
On the
Website. Some jobs are on the e-blast.
Maybe it should be on the e-blast or the Chronicles or someplace where everybody has an opportunity to see it. All right, that's just anyway. That's just fine. But when I hear that the villas, I'm not in the villas, had a $1,400 quarter increase, that tells me that there's some kind of mismanagement going on there, and that people who are new to the community that have to pay that are having to pay for previous people's mistakes. And the question that he asked, which is, where did the reserves go, wasn't answered. It was everything that's answered is you either go to the city, complain to the city, or go to the Chronicles, or go here, or I think as board members, you should be able to answer all these questions specifically. I don't think they have. Well, what is it? Where did that reserve go if they answered it? Where did it go? Specifically, where did it go? You said they answered it. The question, who's the man that asked?
Well, where did they go? They got spent on landscaping. They got spent on replacing driveways that were cracked by tree roots that had grown under them. It went to paint. It went to repair stucco. Those are all of the,
But those should be coming out of, I'm not sure that's what would be coming out of reserves.
That is actually what the reserve is for. Okay?
So then what do the dues go
And in the
for?
villas,
Just salaries?
by law, the villas reserve is the one that has to pay for that. All right? Would we like to be able to help them on this problem with the city, not city, but the state law on landscaping? Yes. I personally, and I know others, have spent hours going through every one of the documents to see if there was a semicolon we could use to allow us to give them a big loan or do something else.
Yeah.
And the answer was totally illegal in this state. In California, we could have done it in 5 minutes.
And what I would tell you is that with landscaping, landscape maintenance is paid out of operating. What's under reserves are the replacement of valves, lines, and actual plants, because plants have a certain lifespan.
And I forgot the percentage that you said was over, like 300% over or something like that. It seems like, to me, the accounting doesn't seem to jump.
Well, in past, when that happened, then it was given back to them. Okay? So you use the reserve study to look at it, and I wouldn't say there was mismanagement per se. It was managed with what people knew at that time, and they made the best decisions at that time, which in hindsight may not have been the best thing. But, you know, all we can do is pick up and say, what do we do today?
And a couple
And your
of,
response
excuse
is
me.
like, talk to the city, like this lady here on Black Mountain, we either wait or talk to the city.
Well,
I think we need
that's
more
a city
clout. I
problem.
think you would need more clout, not one person calling the city and complaining. We would need more clout by having support of the SCA.
You know, what I would tell you is if The homeowners association called the city every time there was a problem. They would tune it out. When you, as a resident of the city, a voter, contact the city, it carries far more weight than the HOA contacting.
One resident.
It really matters. Plus, this woman lives by the light pole that she's going to go out and check and identify. And, you know, to have staff go out, look at the address, find the light pole, get the number, report it, you're just putting a lot of extra steps into it where she can go out, she can directly contact the city, it will carry more weight, and she will give them the explicit and right, correct information on the spot because she lives in.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that she shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that I think it carries more clout if we had some backup support and not.
It actually does not.
And then I resent what this gentleman said about, well, you mentioned the name Sandy. I don't know who Sandy is, but that she has 7,144 bosses. I guess I'm one of those 7,144. And to be quite truthful, I resent anyone making a $350,000 salary on my association dues.
Yeah.
I've got to fix things.
Another thing is that salary number is something you must have gotten from next door because it has no factual reality to it. Okay. It is far lower. All right. So can we move on?
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody to look at our parking lot when they go out to their cars. It is beautiful.
Thank you. One more, and that's the last question, because we're a little bit over 3 o'clock.
Just wanted to ask, don't you have a Henderson representative that comes to the meetings, the board meeting?
Yeah, a representative from Dan Shaw.
Okay, why haven't you mentioned it to him? Or maybe you have.
Again.
I didn't hear you.
Again, we do contact them on major things. For instance,
I think that's a major thing. That's our eyesight. That
you have to know where you put your political clout with these people. A street light is better served.
I didn't say a street light.
Okay. With things like, for instance, there's a rebate for landscape projects. And this pertained to the villas. Southern Nevada Water Authority gives $1.50, and then the city gives an extra $1.50. However, the city only allows 2 projects in the queue in a year. Those are 4 different projects. So had we gone ahead with doing the landscaping for the villas, 2 of the villa communities would have gotten the full $3. 2 of the villa communities would have only got the $1.50. We went and put a major effort at lobbying the city on that issue that really had a big dollar and cents impact on our residents. We do those things and we will go fight at the city. By the way, we lost. They wouldn't give on it. But we do have those contacts and we do get the city involved on things of that level. So it's not to say we never go to the city or try to talk directly with the powers to be. I think we're going to have more leverage next year because one of the things that got passed in the last election was that now all council persons are going to run from the ward. They're no longer going to be elected citywide. So we will have more clout with Dan Shaw. I mean, he's technically our ward council person, but it's the kind of thing when they get elected citywide, they don't have the same kind of focus as when we elect them directly from this ward. All right. I thank you. And I would say, you know, in listening to you, yes, we do raise a lot of things. These are many times not new issues. We aim to improve our communication, but for instance, you know, with things like with budget, people don't read that we had a resident budget workshop before we passed the budget back in September. And it's not until they see, oh, the dues, we get the official notice of what the dues are, then all of a sudden, I'm now aware of it and it's upsetting. And so we, you know, the place to do it was before. And that's what we really do want you to speak and get involved in things before decisions get made. And, you know, it's just being aware of looking at the e-blast, looking at what's going on, the meetings that go on, and what's happening in the week. Come to finance committee meetings. Finance committee meetings are open, and you can attend them every month. And if you really like it, volunteer to serve on the finance committee. We're always looking for volunteers. And so contribute in any way you can. Thank you for coming today. Wish you very happy holidays, and may your rest of the month be wonderful and joyous for you. Thank you.